house on Hollow Hill. The last few rays of sunlight disappeared beyond the horizon, leaving the world in darkness. The only light came from the flickering flames of the old gas lamp on the porch of the abandoned house on Hollow Hill. It had been empty for years, and nobody in the town knew who owned it. The locals avoided it, believing that it was haunted. One night, a young couple, Sarah and Tom, were driving back from a wedding when their car broke down. They were in the middle of nowhere, with no phone signal and no other cars in sight. They decided to walk to the nearest town, which was a few miles away. As they walked, they stumbled upon the house on Hollow Hill. It was the only building in the vicinity, and they had no choice but to seek shelter there for the night. The house was in a sorry state, with peeling paint and cobwebs covering every surface. Sarah and Tom pushed the door open, and it creaked loudly. The interior was dark, and the air felt thick and heavy. They could barely see anything, and they stumbled around blindly. Suddenly, they heard a sound, and Sarah jumped in fright. It sounded like footsteps coming from upstairs. They stood frozen, listening intently. The sound grew louder, and they could hear heavy breathing. They both knew that they were not alone in the house. Sarah and Tom decided to explore the house to find out who or what was upstairs. They slowly climbed the stairs, their hearts pounding in their chests. When they reached the top, they saw a door that was slightly ajar. The sound was coming from behind it. They pushed the door open, and the room was lit by a single candle. They saw a figure sitting in the corner, facing away from them. They couldn't see who or what it was, but they could hear its ragged breathing. Sarah and Tom approached the figure cautiously. As they got closer, they could see that it was an old woman, hunched over and rocking back and forth. She had long white hair, and her face was shrouded in shadow. "Excuse us, ma'am," Sarah said. "We were stranded and thought this house was empty. We didn't mean to intrude." The woman turned her head slowly and looked at them with piercing eyes. "You should not have come here," she rasped. "This house is cursed. The spirits will not let you leave." Sarah and Tom were unnerved by the old woman's words. They asked her if she needed any help, but she didn't respond. They decided to leave her alone and explore the rest of the house. As they walked around, they found that the house was filled with strange artifacts and symbols. They saw strange markings on the walls, bones scattered around the rooms, and jars filled with unidentifiable substances. Sarah and Tom began to feel uneasy. They heard strange noises coming from the basement, and the air grew colder. They followed the sounds, and they saw a group of people gathered around a large cauldron. The people were dressed in hooded robes, and they were chanting in a language that Sarah and Tom didn't understand. They were performing some kind of ritual, and it was clear that they were not friendly. Sarah and Tom tried to leave the house, but the doors and windows were all locked. They were trapped. They decided to confront the group of people in the basement. The group stopped chanting when Sarah, "Welcome, my friends," the figure said. "We have been waiting for you." Sarah and Tom tried to back away, but the group surrounded them, blocking their escape. "What do you want from us?" Sarah demanded. The figure chuckled. "You have stumbled upon our home, and now you are ours. We need fresh blood for our rituals, and you will do nicely." Sarah and Tom tried to fight back, but they were outnumbered. The group overpowered them and dragged them to the center of the basement. They tied them up and began the ritual. The chanting grew louder, and the room began to shake. Sarah and Tom could feel an evil presence in the room, and they knew that they were in grave danger. Suddenly, the cauldron in the center of the room began to bubble and boil. A dark smoke rose from it, and a figure emerged from the mist. The figure was tall and imposing, with glowing red eyes and a sinister grin. It was the manifestation of the evil that had taken hold of the house on Hollow Hill. The group fell to their knees and worshipped the figure, but Sarah and Tom knew that they had to escape. They struggled against their ropes, trying to break free. Suddenly, the ropes snapped, and Sarah and Tom were free. They ran towards the stairs, but the figure blocked their way. It was too powerful to defeat. They backed away slowly, looking for a way out. The group was closing in on them, and they knew that they had to act fast. Sarah and Tom found a hidden door that led to a secret passageway. They ran through it, hoping that it would lead to safety. They heard the group chasing them, but they kept running. The passageway led to a trapdoor, and they It was as if the house had disappeared into thin air. Sarah and Tom never spoke about their experience again. They knew that they had come face to face with evil, and they were lucky to have escaped with their lives. Epilogue. Years later, a new family moved into the house on Hollow Hill. They didn't believe the rumors about the house being haunted, and they thought that it would be a great fixer-upper project. They began to renovate the house, but strange things started to happen. The walls began to bleed, and the floors creaked with invisible footsteps. The family soon realized that they had made a grave mistake, and they fled from the house, never to return. The house on Hollow Hill remains empty to this day, a testament to the evil that lurks within its walls.